Step 4 on resentments.
My name is Ralph White, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm just savoring the moment, Bob. It's good to be back, live and in person. Thank you for the invitation. I think that, Bob, I was thinking about it, and I think that I'm the sole survivor of the first Woodstock that we had here, first Stateline. That lineup included Angie, Clint Hodges, Charlie Carney, Sharon Crane, Tom I. So I was sitting there and I was reflecting on what it is that we get the opportunity to do. Talked to a couple of people at the break about this deal that we're in lately, these last couple of years, and it's kind of been cool to sit down, at least for me. It's been okay to sit down. It's been okay to discover our resilience. It's been okay for me to be able to be at home every single weekend. It's been all right. But I got unlike a lot of people, I have a really close biological family, so I don't normally say you guys are closer to me than my real family, because I got a close biological family. But I got a really, really, really intense love affair going with Alcoholics Anonymous. And I got a real big family in Alcoholics Anonymous, and inside that family, I have a family. And I miss you guys. Yeah, I'm including you too, Don. I'm looking right at you. I miss you guys. But we didn't come here to hear how much I miss you guys. We came here to talk about resentments. Bob said that he thought I was the poster child for resentments. I didn't know how to take that. He said, Ralph, you're perfect for resentment. I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe you need to change the phrasing of that, sir. But I'm glad to be included in this number. I got here on Thursday, and I need to thank my host, Rick, for coming out and picking me up. There are so many things that I take for granted, and so many things that I've missed. And when you get to go out and do stuff like this, there's a lot of other stuff that comes with it. One of the things that comes with it is you get to make a lot of new friendships, the people who pick you up, the people who host you. Now, this is not a new friendship because Rick and I go back, but I want to thank you, Rick, for taking care of me, bringing me out. And when Rick picked me up, I was sick. I sat in LAX on Thursday, and I felt this coming on me, right? So I went and bought some NyQuil, and I dropped some NyQuil, and I dropped some more when I got here. And so as a result of that, on Thursday, I missed the Thursday night people. Anybody who knows me knows that I am still a junkie for AA speakers. You know, when Leslie and I go somewhere, she'll be in the room. I'm going to be at the speaker meeting, period. You know, I can't get enough of you guys. And so I had to miss so I had to miss because I was sick, and apparently I'm still feeling the effects of it. So chalk it up. If you hear something crazy come out, just chalk it up to, oh man, he was delirious up there, right? So just chalk it up. But I did get to hear Kit when I came. And everybody that knows me or knows Kent knows that I got 5 brothers, and Ken is like my 6th brother. So I got a chance to hear. So I'm biased, but Ken brought, he brought history alive in a way that we don't normally hear history. And so he made the first person, and he gave us some first-person accounts of what it is in our hotbed, what it is down in Akron, And so I so enjoyed that presentation from Kent on Thursday, on Friday, and then we got an opportunity to hear from my boy Billy. The thing when Billy shares, me and Leslie were in the room talking. When Billy shares, sometimes don't you feel like, ooh, am I doing something wrong? Billy, you be like, you be checking your report card, Billy. Billy be bringing, because Billy is so, much my AA compass, and I'm like, oh my God. And even the things that are different, that I don't agree with Billy, and it's not that I don't agree with it, I'm different, because Billy said he was never a cucumber. I'm a cucumber. I was a cucumber, but when Billy describes his experience, I feel like, are you sure you were a cucumber? But I was a cucumber. I did the progression. I started out and I could put it down and I could see the progression looking back in my life. But Billy, oh my God, just makes me want to be accountable as an AA member, and brings that out. And great first step, and one of my favorite all-time AA speakers, persons, mentors, just a gentle powerhouse, Marilyn. Oh my God, all the time. Marilyn just brings it, and Marilyn is soft-spoken, but just launching salvos, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, great talk on that second step. And I was here the night you got the call. Still remember that. Still remember being with you at Akron on your first Mother's Day after that too. One of the great talks in Alcoholics Anonymous that morning, and I am so grateful I get to share a stage. And thank you, John, for that third step. Very unique, interesting. I like when people do something different, So, John, thank you for that third step. John said something, third step. He talked about grace. Talked about he takes issue with but for the grace of God because it implies something. It implies that some people who aren't here are not or can't avail themselves to God's grace, right? And there was the question, so what about them? And so what about this business of grace anyway? And I think that's going to take me into what we're going to talk about with this resentment inventory. What part does that play anyway? So we talk about, because one of the things that I know on October the 10th of 1986, I started drinking in earnest when I went off to college in 1971. And I went at it, and I grew into it. Mine was progressive. I started with Annie Greenstream's, Boone's Farm, Tyrolia, Spinata, youngsters drinks, you know what I'm saying? Rum and Coke, Southern Comfort, which was my drink of choice when I'm mixing drinks, right? Southern Comfort and Tanqueray, and then I'm growing commercial. Just the whole thing, because I'm a progressive guy. And so I get into it, man, and so I changed from that cucumber to that pickle Billy. Can't tell you the date, the time, or the hour, but I can tell you that I went to that place Bill describes as the region from which there's no return through human aid, right? One of his descriptions of the invisible line. And so I'm living over there in that region for a long time. And so I start, and I start losing. I started losing big. I'm a high-achieving guy, and I'm a guy that had some things. I'm the real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde that's described in the book. My alcoholism is growing. I'm also growing in the workplace. So at a certain point, probably about 1984, I'm working in management in the law department of a large utility company in Los Angeles. And so I'm business guy by day, but I'm vampire by night. I'm the double life guy, because I'm the double life, because I go to Black Angus and I go to Red Onion after work on payday, right? And so I'm with the people who think we kind of the renegades at work, right? They don't know I got a life apart from them, because they don't really get down like I get down. I'm at the happy hour and we getting it in and we getting it on, and they thinking, yeah, this is what we do, we smoke weed at lunch and we drink after work. And okay, that's how y'all do. You don't know who this guy is when he leaves you. Anybody know the double life guy? I'm the double life guy, right? So anyway, I'm working in management, this major utility. I got this office, and it's got a big glass window in front, and it allows me to look out on the workforce of about 80. The downside of that is it allows the workforce to look in on my behind, right? And so, and so they looking in, and when you got that 6-day run and you do that whiplash and look to see, and everybody's look, that ain't cool. That ain't cool. So pretty soon, the bosses get wind of this, because they don't pay the vampire to come to work, and the vampire don't work at work. And they call the vampire in one day and say, you got to go, do it with you, bam. Lost my dream job. I'm working in management. I finally ascended to a role in management, right? I don't get overtime. I'm salaried, work. And this is 1984 or something like it. I'm making about, $50K at that time. Ooh, that seemed like huge money at that time. And now I lose that job. The next year I get put out of my house. And that was 85 to 86. I do the aimless walk. at night. And so from 1971 to 1986, I couldn't put it down. The night of October the 10th of 1986, a series of bad events happened, which ended with me dodging a black truck the morning of October the 11th, 1986. And something happened that morning. I didn't know that the 10th was how dark it is before the dawn day. I didn't know that. We don't make a reservation for recovery. And out of all the years I've been talking, this is the first time I've ever drank water at the podium. That's just an aside. Don't mean nothing to nobody else. But it's tripping me out. This can't shake it. So you guys bear with me. I can't shake it. So what happened? October the 10th, I couldn't put it down. From October the 11th of 1986 to this day, I haven't picked it up. Some 35 years later. What happened? On October the 11th, 1986, Not a meeting, no sponsor, no fourth step, no fifth step, no eighth and ninth step, no 6 and 7, no H&I panels, no meetings, no parking lot, no nothing. Something happened, something entered my life the morning of October 11, 1986. What is that? John alluded to it. What do we call that? Most of our members call that grace. And the thing about it, we don't predict the grace, we can't create the grace, we don't produce the grace, we don't control the grace. But everybody sitting in here this morning knows one thing, we certainly catch it. We come to rely on it. And this business of grace, John mentioned, so what are you saying when you talk about but for the grace of God? Is it a drunk laying right outside of us right now somewhere up the street and the grace ain't available to him? Is that what you're saying? I was walking up to a meeting. I was about 6 months sober, and I was walking up to a meeting, and I ran into this guy, old-timer John, and he's like, Ralph, how you doing? What's going on with you? I said, I'm just doing God's work. He said, what you think you can do for God, God can't do for himself. And that floored me, right? Because I thought I gave the right answer because I'm the right answer guy, right? What you think you can do for God, God can't do for himself. But I'm trained well. I'm trained well in life. Sometimes I say Alcoholics Anonymous trained, which it did. But some of this I brought to the table with me. And one of the things I'm trained from, I respect my elders, always have. So it hasn't been hard for me to respect old timers and what they represent in the rooms, right? But I was really hungry too, and I was interested. So I said, John, talk to me. So help me. What is it? He said, Ralph, God gave you something he didn't even reserve for himself. I said, what's that? He said he gave you the choice over whether or not you're going to return his love. God don't have no choice. God is love. Your job is to do for his kids. God's job is to do for you. So God just had one job. He just keep guiding. He just keeps sending out grace. Then what's the deal with the drunk on the street? Receiver is blocked. The receiver is blocked. It ain't that God is withholding anything. Receiver's blocked. So it's been my job these past 35 years. I don't create the grace. I wipe the window. I wipe the window. And I think we start that in that process. And when I get off my knees in the third step, God, I offer myself to you to build with me, do with me as you will. Relieve me of the bondages of self, whole deal. That's our fulcrum. That's what we rest on. Relieve me of the bondages of self. It's too much me between me and the power. Too much me between me and the grace. Too much me. I think when, in my life at least, I learned something. When desperation meets opportunity, there's a small window of grace that opens up. And it opened up for me the morning of October 11th, 1986. I jumped through the window. And it's been my job the rest of this time to expand on that. I wiped the window. I wipe the window, and so when I get off my knees in the third step, right, it's too much me between me and the power. God is right there. God ain't obscure. God, in our chapter, we agnostic. He says sometimes it's obscure. His presence is obscure. God ain't obscure. God is right there. His presence is obscured by the stuff inside of me. I worship other stuff. I chase money. I chase fame and popularity. I chase a whole bunch of other stuff. I get distracted by the stuff that's going on around me, the troubles in the world and pandemic and the rest of that. But God is God, standing right there. Too much me between me and the power. And so it's been what it is that we're going to talk to you guys about the rest of this weekend is smudging the window, wiping the window, clearing away what stands between me and the power. Real short formula, grow God, shrink Ralph, whole deal. Grow God, shrink Ralph, whole deal. Whole rest of the steps. The rest of this ego-reducing series of exercises that we call the steps, they all designed to put me in the right place so that we can see that's what's left. It's too much me between me and the power. And so I get up off my knees in the third step and I say, okay, God, do something with your boy. And he starts on this. So I start I start this rigorous series of activities, right? So now we're going to start looking at this inventory. And the first inventory that we're going to look at, and I'm still an inventory guy. Bob, when he asked me and he talked to me, he's like, you probably get irritated getting put on form. Yeah, I do, right, Bob? I really do. Bob and me are so kindred spirits. But, even these many years later, you guys, I still do inventory. And we do, and I don't know, at these gatherings, a lot of times we don't have a lot of brand new people. A lot of times we're singing to the choir already when we come up in here and do this deal. But I'm going to still assume we have some people who may not have had the pleasure of inventory. And because at first it'll seem like it's scary, but think about it. What am I getting ready to embark on when I start looking at inventory? Well, I'm going to get to explore my favorite subject, me. I get to write about my favorite subject. And the purpose of inventory is not to discover what I know about me, it's to discover what I don't know about me. It's to discover what it is that drives this engine, what it is that I don't even know about me, that directs me on a daily basis. Most of it is my interaction with other folk. And so when we do this business inventory, it starts with an assumption. Bill makes a lot of assumptions in the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous. And one of the assumptions is he says that being convinced that self manifested in various ways was what had defeated us. That's a lot of assumptions. Being convinced that self manifest. Well, who told you I was defeated? Well, you came in here at 33 years old. You didn't have a driver's license. You didn't have anywhere to live. You had not been on anybody's job in the last year. You had not looked at yourself full face in the mirror in over a year. You did not know where your family was living, and you didn't know where your little girl was enrolled in school. You had not answered anybody's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock wake up call to go to work in so long you no longer thought you were employable. We think that's a good start on being convinced that you have been defeated. Being convinced that self manifested in various ways was what had defeated us. If your life is still running fine, then don't do inventory. If your life is successful, don't get on your knees and do the third step. Why would you? I wouldn't. But for those of us who are convinced by the evidence of our own lives that I'm a train wreck waiting to happen, or I'm a train wreck that has happened and getting ready to happen again, we invite you to do this. We invite you to take a look at this and take a different look at things. We invite you, Ralph, for the first time in your life, if you really want to be something different. And you guys, when I came to you and I was 33 years old, and there was still a glimmer of the guy that still used to get up and celebrate Christmas. There was still a glimmer of the guy who used to get excited on Christmas Eve. There was still a glimmer of a guy who used to want to see his little girl light up on her birthday. There was still a glimmer of the guy that wanted to be welcome at his mama's house on Thanksgiving. There was this little spark. There was a little spark. And you welcomed me in and you fanned that flame. I'm not a person, and this is what we talk about this weekend. All the people who are going to speak this weekend, we're going to talk about our program of recovery. We're going to talk about our big book. But I'm not an academic guy. I'm 68 years old. Been with you 35 years. I really am not here to teach. I'm really not here to do a seminar. I'm here to let you guys know. See, this 35 years doesn't qualify me as an expert in Alcoholics Anonymous. Doesn't qualify me as an authority on Alcoholics Anonymous. Does not make me a spokesperson for Alcoholics Anonymous. I think it does qualify me, though, as excellent expert witness. Where's Mike Socio? Expert witness. You can call on me to testify about Alcoholics Anonymous. And I could and would, if sworn, confidently testify to the results I've gotten here. And I like to talk about it. That's who you got up here in front of you right now. You know, I like to talk about being a granddaddy again. I like to talk about the joys of being a dad. I like to talk about standing in the delivery room and seeing my daughters make it here. I like to talk about being at the Pop Warner football game for my 6-year-old grandson. They don't even have passes in that game. You know, it's been a long time since I was 6. I forgot about it. They just run. Sometimes they run the wrong way. You know, it's a kid out there that's bigger than all the other kids, and he get all. And if it's going to be any touchdowns that day, it's that kid, right? And the grandparents are there, and I'm just there to see my grandson out there for his 8 to 10 plays he gets. That's it. That's it. And it's amazing when I look at this room. We think this room is just the size of this room, but I see a whole lot more than that. I see represented up in here because we're tornadoes, all of us. Not many tornadoes. We're full-fledged tornadoes. We are tsunamis, many of us, you know. And so when I look around this room, but what an effect that we have sober. I look around this room, see, I know about Ken and his daughters, you know. I got a sponsee here, Derek. I know about Derek and his daughters. I know you guys share your stories with me. I know that we got represented here, you know, times 20. The parents who are sleeping better. The parents who, in their old age, got some people to take care of them now. The kids who going to have somebody show up at the parent-teacher conference. The ones who going to show up at graduation. So don't let me go a whole lot, you know, but that's why you got me up here today, because I like to talk about what has been given to me in this deal. So I do this inventory process. So being convinced that life run on my will can hardly be a success. We look at self manifested in various ways, and we look at inventory. We look at 3 different inventories: resentment, fear, and sex conduct inventory. I'm going to talk about one of them, thank God, because I probably will not have enough time to talk about the one, let alone talk about all 3 of them. And I'm glad Bob has started breaking them up, because it used to be you have to do 4 and 5 and to try to talk about all those inventories and a 5th step too. So I'm going to just talk about one of them. Resentment is the number 1 offender. Why do we think resentment? And what is this deal with resentment? And sometimes you guys, you think about anger and you think about resentment, and sometimes you think that they're the same deal. I think that anger is almost like anger is closely aligned with an instinct, and it's instinctual, and sometimes it is spontaneous, and sometimes you don't call it forward. You don't choose it. You know, I walk outside. If I walk outside and see somebody, you know, heaven forbid, putting their hands on, I'm going to get pissed off. You know, if I was to look down right now and see Rick with his hands around Leslie's, I'm gonna jump down from here. I'm gonna be pissed off. I'm gonna be angry. You know, anger is sometimes it's a spontaneous reaction, but the difference with anger and resentment. Now, anger is we try to avoid anger too, because I can't afford it. You know, I'm not one that, you know, it's not that you don't have a right to get angry. Ralph, what is your track record, Shaq? You can't afford it, dude. You don't know how. You're not mature enough to handle it. You take a situation that requires a fly swatter. You go nuclear. You take nuclear reactor. Should be a fly swatter. No. Leave that to other people who better qualify. But there are some things to get angry about. There are some things that should anger a person. You know, when we get into this spiritual program, when we get into this spiritual exercise, it talks about as God's people, we stand on our feet. That don't mean we grovel. That don't mean we accept unacceptable things. In fact, most folk that should make changes in life, you know, spiritually, we're the best qualified for that. So there's a time and a place for that. But the difference between resentment and anger is a couple of things that are different. And resentment there are very few redeeming qualities with resentment. Number 1, resentment is chosen. I choose to nurse resentment. Resentment is persistent. Resentment is there's an element of bitterness that's associated with resentment. If you go to Webster, it's going to talk about, you know, it'll probably have bitterness in the definition of resentment. ill feeling about toward an injury or hurt, and it's a persistent, and it's a revisit. Why is that? This business of resentment. Why does it have its own inventory anyway? Why does it stand alone? Why is it so problematic for folk? If I ask everybody in here right now who read the big book Alcoholics Anonymous, and it says, we believe resentment's out of power to kill, and if I was to say, how many people in here believe resentment's out of power to kill, and I'd probably see a whole lot of hands. In fact, I'm going to do it. How many people in here believe resentment's out of power to kill? Okay, how many people in here get resentments? So either A, we got a bunch of suicide bombers in here, or B, I don't mean to say this about y'all, we got a bunch of people, I'm not going to say you lying, but I'm going to say we got a bunch of people who think they believe something they don't believe. What you do speak so loud, I can't hear what you say. I say that I believe resentments kill, but I'll cop one in a minute, because every now and then you deserve a good cussing out. No, there's a line that everybody agrees should not be breached. There is a line that my manhood demands. No. You can't let him get away with that one. You cannot. You cannot. Well, dude, didn't you just go up saying you believe resentment's out of power to kill? Yeah, that's for them. That's theoretical. No, I don't believe that I'm gonna die if I leave here right now thinking when I see that goddamn Kent, I don't believe I'm gonna die. No, I do not. No, I don't. So, it's a lot of things in there. So that's one of the reasons why it's so problematic. I think resentments work for me. Most of the time when I get a resentment, it's because of some imagined hurt. Sometimes it's not imagined. Sometimes it's real. And it's a threat to my ego. And that business, it's interesting when a lot of you probably, especially if you kind of new to the book and you got that fervor of that newly indoctrinated, you know what I mean? The fervor, that's like when people be in jail and they get the Bible, that fervor of the newly anointed, that. And that fervor happens in here with us too, When I first went through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, officially, because I've been going to meetings, step studies at your home group and meetings at your home group, and they read the whole chapter, then people share. I'd share. I didn't know what I was, I hadn't paid no attention. Take a keyword out of the stuff and then just take off on what you want to take off on. I'd do that. But when I went through the book for the first time officially, and you get that fervor going. I'm like Christopher Columbus. I like to say when I discovered the book, it's the first time it got discovered, right? You show up at a meeting and some old timer's up there sharing and he ain't quoting the book correctly, and you be like, he up in there killing newcomers, right? Killing newcomers. And so all of us go through those phases of development, right? And somebody is probably going through that phase right now and is going through that phase of being on fire and this book. I'm a guy, might have been Billy, and he quoted my sponsor. This book is the map, it's not the treasure. My sponsor, who is Bob B. out of St. Paul, Minnesota, says, Ralph, if you're reading this book for anything other than relationship with the power, you're using it as a management tool, and that's human power. You're reading it for anything other than relationship with a power. You're using it as a management tool, and that's human power. So this business of resentments, what do we do with them in here? Well, we put them on paper. We put them on paper. And we have a formula that we use. And as much as I would like to, sometimes, all you guys that sponsor people and work with people, sometimes people will come to you with a problem or a situation or a question, and they'll say, oh, no, okay, no, for real, tell me what it is that like we have tips or like we have hints that are independent of this. This is what I do. Now, tell me what you really do when somebody piss you off. I put their name right here. I say Kent, No, I'm not going to say Kent. I say Carlos. I say lied about me. I say almost killed my deal. 35 years later, I still do resentment inventory. I still look at what it is. I still look at I do take it through 4 columns. In this pandemic, because we've been inside, you guys, I haven't had a lot of opportunity to let the real me really rub against the real you. So I haven't been copping a lot of resentments, right? Because I haven't had a lot of interaction. And believe it or not, I'm not going to stand in front of you and say I don't still get resentments, as I do. I'm also not going to stand in front of you and say, if you catch me on a bad day, I'm liable to have the same kind of resentments as you have with 30 days. I don't know where that serves any good purpose. I don't know why I think anybody that comes up here and says, if you got up earlier than me this morning, you more so, I think that does a disservice to our program. I think it does a disservice to what it is we do. I've been looking at myself for 35 years. I do not do the same. I'm not the same man that I was 35 years ago. Something has happened to me. I've been transformed. Most of my inventories now, I had an inventory and it was a big inventory. I just did it with my sponsor down in New Jersey last month. I had a 5th step and I had 6 names. I have not had 6 names on an inventory in I don't know how long. Normally I have about 3 names. I'm still in that because I still get them. Why do you still do inventory, Ralph? Shouldn't you be doing stuff? Shouldn't you be doing 10, regular 10 and 11 right now? Why do you still have them? Well, I don't dispute that. If any of you out there say I do 10 and 11, I don't have to do them then. That's cool. I still fall down. I'm still messy. I still do stuff. I still like I like looking. I'm part of a group. 34 years ago, we got together and started going through the big book together. 12 people around my mother's dining room table. I'm a hungry guy, and I like to know what it is that I'm affiliated with. That's why I love when Ken did the history. And so I'm a hungry guy. And so I got around my mama's dining room table with 12 people 34 years ago, and we went through the book page by page, line by line. We liked it. Some people heard about it. They said, we want to do it. So we did it again. We liked it. Some more people heard about it. They said, we want to do it. So we did it again. We liked it, and we've been doing it now every Sunday morning since November of 1987. And now we've been doing it the last 2 years on Zoom, and we got over 450 people that show up on Sunday mornings wanting to go through that big book. It used to worry me some. I used to think about it. Why do you still go through that book every Sunday? What can be in there that's that? And you know what? My mom is 91, and she still goes to Bible study every Monday night. There's something that's alive in that book for Ralph White every Sunday morning. And more importantly, there are people who still see something in there for them. So I still do it. And as a group, since we go through the steps as a group, when we get the fourth step, I write fourth step. That's what happened for me, you guys. Was doing some stuff this year, last year. Talk about this business of resentment being infinitely grave. So I'm doing some stuff. I'm in a deal, and the deal go way sideways. And my clients are personal friends of mine, really close. And when everything starts going south, our relationship gets a little bit fractured and some stuff gets said. This period of time, I'm losing sleep. I'm feeling disconnected. I'm feeling something I haven't felt in a long time. Unanchored, unmoored. Talking about it a little bit with Bob. Leslie gets more of it, and I'm shook. So I do what we do in that situation. I got 6 people, all parties to this transaction. My 2 clients, this other agent, this other officer, this other broker, this other, and I'm in it, man. I'm in it. And so this broker and me are going at it. And we're talking, and we're trying to resolve something. We're trying to reach a resolution. He's talking over me. Now the testosterone is flying. Ladies, I know you guys don't, but now we get into this contest, right? And we talking, and dude says, "Shut up." So now, he says, "Shut up." I said, "What did you say?" So I go all kind of places, you guys, that I ain't been in a while. I said, "Dude, I'm sure you probably recognize from the tone of my voice, I'm sure it's pretty clear that this is somebody you really don't want to go there with, right? And I'm tough guy. But anyway, we go. I don't know about the rest of you guys. Be quiet, listen, hold up. I don't say shut up to my kids. And so we go there. Check this out, dude. I'm a grown ass man. You can't come at me like that. You need to know, matter of fact, who I am and where I live and who we go. We go. He in San Diego somewhere, dude, where you at? And we go. That's the anger part. That ain't I hang up the phone. I'm hot. Now we going in resentment. And resentment is a choice. Choose resentment. My manhood, you can't, no, he needs to know who I am. No, he don't. When you go in the where I was going earlier when I was talking about when you get new to the process and you start, for some reason people talk about there are 12 principles behind the steps, and then there's a list. There are lots of cute lists about stuff, but I'm going to tell you a principle that underlies every single one of our steps. That principle is humility, and it's huge, fellas. It's big. It's the key to life or death for people like me and you. And that humility, when resentment inventory, it is, it's an element I hadn't always looked at and stressed, and so when you start living this process and you start living this program, it's not a discrete series of exercises, it's integrated. Because where you'll hear humility talked about, you'll hear it in 1, you'll hear it in 6 and 7, right? Then later on, you'll start hearing it in 11. But it's really integrated throughout everything it is that we do. And so this business of living, this business of resentment, is tied into all of it. So if I have been in a 10, so this business of resentment, because usually Bob has me talking about it in the 4th step, but when you go into the 10th, I don't mean to step on anybody's toes, but when you go into the 10th, it says, watch. And turn on your watch around and you watch for resentment. So right then, I should have been watching for it. I wasn't watching for it. I'm in it. I'm participating in it. And I'm glad to be participating in it because you need to know. So you guys see, this business of resentment is infinitely grave. And the reason it's infinitely grave, to this day, I don't know dude. I wouldn't know him if he walked in here right now. I wouldn't know him but it was killing me. It was eating my lunch. It was I have not been that off center in a long, long time. And it ain't like I'm not a stumbling, staggering, do wrong guy. No, I could make messes, but I haven't been that deep in one. That deep where you want to roll on something, that like that. So I talked to my broker and we and you gotta. When you're talking about resentment, you guys, the reason why we have a template for how these should be dealt with is if I'm leaving it on my own or if I'm talking to somebody else, yeah, man, let's roll. Oh, yeah, no. I got a template. And so finally, and it didn't take me long, in fact, I was about 2 or 3 days in. I got to go pen the paper. Isn't it amazing, you guys, when you start doing this process, pretty soon, what used to seem like, man, this is a burden, or how am I going? It's a lifeline. You rush to it. When you get in a place like that, you cannot, I'm telling you, there's people in here who will tell you, if you guys are new and you don't have the experience yet, there are people in here who will tell you it's like a release valve when you go pen the paper. When you pen up, when you can't see yourself, when you got too much you on you, when you got too much you in the game, when you're too invested. Oh my God, it ain't nothing like pen the paper. There's nothing like pen to paper because I can't see me. I can't see my own picture when I'm in the frame. But when I put it on paper, so I put it on paper, column 1, the broker, column 2, disrespected me, talked down to me, and sometimes when you write an inventory, you guys be careful because if you can do make work, don't do make work. A lot of times you would restate the same thing over and was condescending, talk down, same thing, don't worry about it. Make it easy on yourself, and so bam, talk down to me, disrespected me, lied about me, bam, third column, what did that affect? Oh, my self-esteem. Oh my God, I must be some kind of, what kind of message did I send him that made him think he could talk to me like that? What's wrong with me? My pride. He must think I'm some kind of, does he know who I am? He must not think much about me. My ambition. I want a professional, courteous relationship with this man. This was a professional deal I'm in. My security, my financial, my emotional security is shot, Personal relationships. If I ever saw him on the street, my personal relationships with him, with his agent, she lied on me. Pocketbook, whole deal at risk. So pocketbook was everything but my sex relations was affected. Go to my 4th column. I'm selfish. I want him to adopt my opinion of me. I want him to adopt my opinion of the events over his opinion of the events, over his perspective. He had a perspective. I had a perspective. There was a business deal. He gets some information from his agent. I'm giving him my information. I want him to adopt mine over what he's hearing from his agent. I'm selfish. Really, and I'm I'm dishonest too, and I'm fearful. I'm dishonest because some of what he said was true. I dropped the ball. And so some of what he said was true. Not the shut up part. No, we still, with that part right there, but the whole interaction. And the fear. Fear of being punked, fear of being looked down on, fear of being exposed, fear of being humiliated, fear of being shown to be less experienced than he was, because that was a lot of the crux of it. He's going to start, because we wouldn't have been in that if I had done, and to be honest, some inexperience had put me in that position to be hurt. So I'm the kind of guy, most of my resentments that fall in one or two areas. I either step on your toes and you retaliate, or I make a decision based on self that later puts me in position to be hurt. And I made a decision based on self somewhere earlier in that deal that later put me in position to be hurt. And now and so when you do resentment inventory, guys, one of the things that's important, to be free of the resentment, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be free of the resentment. And so I have an overriding rule when I do resentment inventory. And my overriding rule is, do I want to be right or do I want to be free? That's an overriding one for me. Do I want to be right or do I want to be free? I know we got a smart person in there to say, well, I want both. Okay. In the situations where you can have both. But in the situation where you got to either, okay, I'm right. God damn it, I'm right. He didn't have the right to tell me to shut up. You're right about that. But who can't sleep? How's that working for you? And here's the other interesting thing about doing resentment inventory, you guys. It don't mean rolling over. It don't mean, I'm going to say that it's cool family. No. Being free of the resentment does not mean that I condone, excuse, or exonerate the behavior that brought it on. It just means I'm being free of the resentment. I'm not excusing him for telling a grown man, as I told him, man, I'm 68 years old. No. But no. Who can't sleep with your 68-year-old? You standing on that, you would look good. You would look good trying to lay down at night. So I want to be free. So it's real clear, guys, when we talk about resentment inventory, I want to be free of the resentment. I want to be free of the resentment. And so a lot of times when people have resentments, particularly that they feel are justified, that's a slippery slope for alcoholics. That's a slippery slope for people. We think this is a dubious luxury of normal men, is the way Bill puts it. Dubious. It's questionable whether anybody can afford this. But for people like me that take drinks for people like me, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience. I'm trying to grow a spiritual experience. I'm trying to get the spiritual thing going in my life. And so this business of resentment, this ego inflator, the business of spiritual experience is all about ego deflation. Whole deal. Guess what resentments are? Ego inflators. By definition. I cannot harbor a resentment without it being ego-driven. Don't you know who I am? I got to stand on that. And I got to revisit that. And it's purposeful. It's a purposeful, barrier. And so since I am in the business of wiping the window, not sitting up here and putting more blood on the window, I'm in the business of wiping the window. I'm in the business of clearing away. So this business of resentment is infinitely grave, and so, the biggest thing and the biggest barrier to most of us in resentment inventory, I'm going to say this in these last couple of minutes I have, is the justified resentments. How do y'all get free of them, dude? You standing up there waxing on about resentments and getting free of them and sleeping at night, but that's you and a guy that just told you to shut up. What about about me? What about me? I'm the rape victim. What about me? I'm the incest survivor. What about me? I'm the molester survivor. What about me? How I get free of that kind of resentment? I've been holding on to it for 25 years. What you gonna tell me I can do about that? That stuff you talking about is lightweight. This is real stuff that really happens to real people. Justified resentments. Do I want to be right or do I want to be free? Do I want to be right or do I want to be free? How's that working for you? I'm not telling you you ain't right. I'm not telling you what happened to you was right. I'm not telling you what happened to you wasn't heinous. I'm not telling you what happened to you should not have happened to you. I'm not telling you any of that. But while your ego is still alive in the fourth step, make it work for you. Make it work for you. What do you mean, Ralph? Make it work for me. Well, Uncle Charlie came up in my bed when I was 8 years old. I'm 48 years old. Get out of my bed. I'm 48 now. So I ain't responsible for what happened, but I'm responsible for the resentment. How's the resentment working for you? Well, shit, if I let go of the resentment, aren't I saying that what happened was right? Aren't I saying that I agree with what happened? Being free of the resentment does not mean that I condone, excuse, exonerate the behavior that brought the resentment on. It means I'm being free of the resentment. That's what's mine. Uncle Charlie, do what you do. You know, that's what's mine is the resentment. And the resentment is killing me. The resentment is in the bed with me. The resentment is in between me and healthy relationships. The resentment stops me from going to family reunions. The resentment stops me from going anywhere any free person can go. The resentment stunts my growth. The resentment is killing me. My friend Strange used to say, me having a resentment is like me drinking the poison and waiting on you to die. Me having a resentment is like me keeping you in jail, but I got to stand there and stand guard over you. Well, what do I do with a resentment like that? It happened to me. I was 8 years old. You know, 1, the molester. 2, he molested me. 3, it affected my self-esteem. Must be something wrong with me. You know, and most people who suffer stuff like that feel like it was their fault. They brought it on. Must be something wrong with me. My pride, you know, shit, you must not have thought much of me. I wasn't worthy. You took advantage of me like that. You treated me like I wasn't worth anything. You didn't think much of me. Plus, I know the world does not. My ambition, all I wanted was a happy childhood. I wanted to be a happy little girl, a happy little boy, wanted a happy family life. My security, I don't feel safe at all around people, around men, around relationships. When I get in intimate relationships, my personal relationships, I only have surface relationships. I know if you see me, if you really see what's underneath, you'll see I'm dirty. You'll see that I'm not worthy. So I only keep these surface relationships and I only let you get so close. You know, my sexual relationships, transactional. I know I'm only worth what I can pay for, or I'm frigid. I cannot get it, or I'm overly promiscuous, or it takes all kinds of forms. You know, in my pocketbook, I buy myself into stuff. I buy myself, you know, so wait a minute. Oh my God. So what am I going to do with this one? You know, is it selfish? It wasn't selfish not wanting to have somebody perpetrate themselves on me. It wasn't selfish not wanting somebody to inflict themselves on me. But what has been selfish is me holding on to this resentment for all these many years, thinking that it has some worth. Well, if I let go of the resentment, Ralph, that's my protector. That's my protection. You know, I need to hold on to that so it'll never happen to me again. Guess what? You'll never be an 8-year-old little girl again. Whoa. Shit, I didn't know that till I put it on paper. It can't happen to you again. You ain't gonna be an 8-year-old girl again. Well, what about keeping him away from my daughter? Okay, that's you making sound decisions. People can make sound decisions without the resentment. I can keep Uncle Charlie away from my daughter. I can keep him away from, I don't need the resentment in order to do it. And I think I need the resentment. I think it gives me power. You know, and the dishonesty. My ex-wife was an incest survivor. And when she does resentment inventory, and she talks about it all the time, give me permission to say it, she says when she does dishonesty, and you guys, when I do it, inventory is personal. You know, nobody at a podium can tell you what's in your third or fourth column. You know, nobody from up here can tell you that. But what we do is give examples that'll spark you. You know, that's what we do together. You know, we stimulate. And so sometimes it lands and sometimes it does, but sometimes it'll stimulate. And Lisa used to say, you know, it started out, she would do dishonesty in her fourth column, because what started out as incest, it started out as molestation, and she says it ended up as prostitution because she would look forward, she would blackmail, her stepdad. She would look forward to getting money from you. So it takes various forms of various people. But I guarantee you, if you cannot see it in selfish, dishonest, or selfish, you'll see it in fear. You see it in fear. Scared that I'm damaged goods. Scared that everybody sees I'm damaged goods. Scared that I'm going to be exposed. Scared that I'll never know love. Scared that I'm not lovable. Scared that, just fear. Fear. But we have something for that. And we commence to outgrow the fear, and we master the resentment. But we don't do it in the 4th step, you guys. A lot of people say, well, I've written the 4th step. How come I'm still not there? Because this is a 12-step program, not a 4-step program. And most of the residue of the 4th step, you'll find it in the 8th and 9th step. And believe it or not, I sponsor people, and I've talked to enough people who've made amends to their purpose and who are free. Do you want to be right or do you want to be free? Do you want relief or do you want freedom? What this program has to offer is freedom. Freedom from the bondage of self, and freedom from to go anywhere any free person could go. Don't want to be right, don't want to be free. So, on that note, you guys, I am so privileged to have got the opportunity to come up here and share just a little portion of what it is that we do. And again, remember, this is resentment inventory. We just smudge. We start wiping the window. And I forget who's going to be doing 8 and 9 here this weekend. But by the time we finish with 8 and 9 and go in now we'll be walking on the sunny side of the street. My name is Ralph White, and I am an alcoholic.